by great teachers, and about this book, Live Better Longer, which has been out for quite a while now, but this year I have promised myself, and I have pledged to myself that I will do a new edition of this book because there's a tremendous amount of really good information in it. And I'd like to talk a little bit about her and some of her healing techniques because I know that you're very interested in that. And then we would like to segue into the new book that we're writing, Surviving Chemo. It's not about surviving cancer. It's about surviving chemo. It's different. It means that when a person is told that she has cancer, there are a number of ways to go. And 90% of the people now, or maybe even more, will go the conventional route because they've been scared by the oncologist and so on. And so they get into chemo. Now, I'm one of those people because 6 months ago I was diagnosed with lymphatic cancer, and there was not time to start juicing and start eating carrot sticks. There just wasn't time. And Mike is a naturopathic doctor, and he's been my partner now for almost 14 years. So when we opted for chemo, we did it with eyes wide open. On the other hand, we knew that we had to supplement the chemo in a certain way, and that's what the book is about. And so we're going to, in the second part of what we have to say this morning, we'll be talking about that, and Mike will walk you through some of the things of the program that we're actually writing about. And finally then, maybe, I don't know, there might be time for a 5-minute break, and then after that, I would like to read a little bit from the new book, Older Man, Younger Man, because I think that you would enjoy hearing that. Okay? So, are you all from Minnesota then?
No.
Not everyone. Who's from Minnesota? Oh, well, that's a fair number of you. And the rest of you are from other places?
Wisconsin.
Where, Wisconsin?
Washington.
Washington State?
San Miguel de Allende.
Oh my goodness, what a wonderful place. We'll have to visit there sometime.
Quite a mix.
Anyone else from anywhere else?
I'm from Toronto.
Toronto, okay, so
Yeah.
you're all from kind of northern
Yeah.
climes, right?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to San Miguel. This is a very magical town, and it's a very wonderful time to be here. This book came out, it's called Live Better Longer, and came out from HarperCollins in 1997. Things are going so fast now, it's hard to remember where we were in 1997 in our thought processes. And at the time that this came out, this was considered groundbreaking material, even though Hazel had been compiling it since the 1940s. She was an amazing teacher and an amazing healer, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her soon. And by the way, I'm going to pass this book around. I only have one copy of it, but you can get this on Amazon if you want to get the original hardback version. And I just want you, I'm passing it around so you can see this photo of her and me at the breakfast table at her place. And we'll start it here while I'm talking. And then a few years later, I came out with the paperback version of it, the paperback edition. And this is the one that's out now. So when you go on Amazon, this is the one you'll probably get. It's Live Better Longer. It's called the Parcells Center, 7-Step Plan for Health and Longevity. I'm probably just going to retitle it to be something like The Life and Work of Hazel Parcells, because that's really what it's about.
Is she still alive?
No, and this is what I'm going to be telling you right now. I'll give you a little biography of her. Hazel Parcells was born in and try to wrap your mind around this, okay? She was born in 1889. She died in 1996. If you did the arithmetic, it's 106 and a half years. I met her when she was around 102. And I went to study with her and actually moved in with her and worked through her papers of 50 or 60 years to try to come up with this book, because believe me, some of these things were on onion skin paper. Some of them were carbon copies of things, you know. In the old days we had carbon copies. There were no computers, of course. It was a very exciting process. I lived with her for 6 or 7 months, and then wrote the book based on that material, and based on actually watching her go through these various healing processes. And it came out, the book came out after she passed away, but she was able to read the final drafts of the book and pass on it. She was very insistent on her work being represented correctly. Very briefly, this about Hazel, because you should know this. She was a war bride in World War I. All right? And during that time, her husband was stationed to Ohio. She was born in Colorado. Her husband was stationed to Ohio in a camp that was very dirty camp, and it was a what do you call it, military camp, you know. But it was a very poor hygiene, and it was very damp climate, and she contracted tuberculosis. Now, at that time, tuberculosis was incurable. If you got it, that was it. You had a few years, you could kind of do some stuff, but you didn't have much of a chance of living past, 4 or 5 more years. She, at the age of, in 1930, 31, the age of 42, 43, decided that she was going to, her health had deteriorated to the point where she went up to Denver, Colorado, to the Fitzsimmons Military Hospital. It was a big deal at that time as a military hospital. And she had a battery of doctors who looked at her and said, finally, there's nothing we can do. She had a collapsed lung, she had hemorrhaged away half of a kidney, she had night sweats, couldn't breathe at night, and all the usual stuff. Anyway, she was pretty much dying. So she heard that. She told me, she said, I heard them say there's nothing we can do. And the way she heard that was, there's nothing we can do. The rest you need to do. And she said, I decided in that moment to take personal responsibility for my health and for my body. And she returned to Colorado, to her little town in Colorado, and she set about trying to figure out how she could get well. And the first thing she did was to try to figure out what she wanted to eat, because she couldn't keep anything down. And she found that when she went inside and then began to talk to her body, she found that what she was really craving was spinach. She wanted green, leafy vegetables, mainly spinach. And she bought spinach. She said, I went out and bought gunny sacks full of spinach. And I had it, I had it in soups, and I had it raw in salads, and I made juices out of it. And I had nothing but, basically for about 6 months, spinach and eggs. And she would get farm fresh eggs from the farmer next door. And she ate spinach for about 6 months. At which time, she noticed that everything started turning around. She had an enlarged heart, and she noticed that she was starting to feel normal with her heart. She was starting to feel normal. She didn't have any night sweats anymore. She didn't have the shakes anymore. She was putting on weight. And finally, after a year, she went back to Fitzsimmons Medical Facility for a checkup. And they actually didn't recognize her, these doctors who had put her through all these tests. And she said, no, I'm, Mrs. Parcells, and they said, well, it's unbelievable, and they gave her a clean bill of health at that point. And it was nothing but, she found out later then when she went back, she said, I understood that I was craving spinach and these various other very, foods, that she would add a little bit of carrots, and then she would add more vegetables and a little bit more protein. She said, I understood that, but I didn't know why. And so she began studying chemistry. And she found out, and remember that there was no science of nutrition in 1931. That was unheard of. And so she was a great pioneer in that field. She went to the library and she began to research, what is it in spinach that saved my life? And found out that it was the folic acid that had turned things around in massive amounts. Now this is something we can get at the drugstore down the street now, but as I say, in the early 1930s this was not possible. And then this began her lifelong study of the chemistry of foods. And she told me near the end of her life, she said, you know something? I haven't had to see a doctor for 60 years. Now imagine that. She became her own doctor. She got in touch with her own inner physician, her own inner doctor. She really was in touch with that. She really understood that she had to use her intuition to be healthy all the time. And she was healthy all the time, but she did all these various detox programs and all the things that I have in the book, all these various steps, that we boiled all of this stuff down to 7 steps. I'll tell you basically what the 7 steps are, because I don't remember. But I do, I'm kidding. The first step is, I call it clean body inside. She said that if you're going to start any kind of health program, any kind of health regime, and turn your health around and have optimum health, you first of all have got to detoxify. And so she had a number of detoxification programs, some of them are in the book. And that was the first thing that was the most important. She said you can't put fresh wine into old wineskins. She used a lot of biblical allusions. Yeah. She said you really have got, if you have fresh wine, you have to put it into fresh wineskins. So you have to clean your body completely before you can embark on this. Step 2, I call clean body on the outside. So the inside of the body is the detoxification. The outside, she had 4 therapeutic baths that she used. And each of these therapeutic baths in hot water was done, that she created from a knowledge of chemistry. And the 4 therapeutic baths concern, one of them is salt and soda, very simple stuff. Another one is just baking soda. Another one is apple cider vinegar. This is with water, of course. And unbelievably, and I'll tell you this, and you can raise your eyebrows, but it's household bleach, Clorox. She was a very, very big believer in the healing power of bleach. And she thought of it as liquid oxygen. She said, you can't think of it as something, she said, of course you don't drink it and stuff like that, but it's a very, very big cleanser. And at her time, that was a very big thing to do. And I am going to, somebody will remind me at the end of the session, I have typed out all of the 4 formulas for the 4 therapeutic baths, and I'm going to pass those out to you as our gift to you. For instance, Formula 1 says, if you've been exposed to environmental radiation or X-rays, air travel, for instance, will greatly increase the levels of radiation in our bodies. Even simple dental X-rays will leave deposits in the body that will interfere with healthy functioning. I can't tell you how many dentists she worked with who had prostate cancer. And they got it because of the X-rays. The X-rays in their body would sink down to they were so heavy, the rays were very heavy. And she said they would sink down to the lowest part of a man's body, the prostate. And that's where they would do their damage. And so the indications for this are general muscle aches, mild nausea, more fatigue than usual, headaches, slight dizziness, the discomforts associated with jet lag, or a disturbance in balance. And then how to do the bath? You dissolve 1 pound of sea salt or rock salt and 1 pound of baking soda in a tub of water as hot as can be tolerated. Stay in the bath until the water is cooled. And there were 4 of these different formulas for 4 different kinds of ailments. And they sure worked for Hazel until she was almost 107 years old. And they've helped a lot of people along the way. So we're going to pass that on to you.
I want to ask, how did she die?
She died in her sleep. And she told us about, there were several of us students who were living with her at the time.
Yeah.
About a week before, maybe 2 weeks before she passed away, she said at breakfast, she said, "I'm thinking of going to cosmic chemistry class." Well, we all looked at one another, not knowing what the heck she was talking about.
Yeah.
She said, I've been dreaming about, or she said, I've been dreaming about, she said, Paracelsus has been visiting me during the night while I'm sleeping. Now, Paracelsus was, now he's considered the father of chemistry. In the Middle Ages, he was an alchemist. And he understood the chemistry of elements. And also was a great healer. And Hazel considered Paracelsus her teacher, but at night, in dreams or in visions or whatever. So she said, I think I'm going to go to cosmic chemistry class. And we kind of knew what that meant. And sure enough, she went to sleep one night, didn't get up. She was going to be 107, and we kept telling her, you know, doctor, because she was a naturopathic doctor, so we always very respectfully called her doctor. Doctor, really, you should really decide to hang around until the 21st century so you can say that you lived in 3 centuries.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I don't know, I don't know, maybe I will, but I'm awfully tired and I want to learn more, and I'm not learning it here.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it was the clean body on the inside, the clean body on the outside, which is the therapeutic baths. The step 3 is called full energy fuel. And here she talks about how to clean your food. And again, you soak it in Clorox. And we do the same thing now down here. We soak all of our food either in Clorox or hydrogen peroxide. But you have to clean your food before you eat it. And she also talks about clean water, how to clean your water. The 4th step is called Optimum Assimilation. Okay, so once you've got a clean body on the inside, a clean body on the outside, and you've cleaned your food, now how do you combine your food for the optimum health? And she has rules about combining food that are now, let's face it, 60 or 70 or 80 years old, but boy, they still work, and they still are really tremendous. You can just imagine what this is. The first rule is not to combine proteins. Don't combine, if you're going to eat meat and fish, don't combine the 2 at the same meal. By the way, she was not a vegetarian. She believed in eating meat. Mike and I can tell you more about that. We've become vegans because of the cancer, but we'll discuss more about that a little later. But Hazel believed in eating meat. She ate meat all of her life. It was healthy all of her life. So don't combine proteins. Don't combine flesh, proteins, and starch at the same meal. So don't eat a hamburger with a bun. Okay. That's, in fact, if you think about it, a cheeseburger on a bun will break all of the rules. Because the 3rd rule is about dairy. Dairy has to be treated with tremendous respect. You have to eat dairy alone. It won't combine with anything except some vegetables. So if you're going to eat cheese, I'm sorry?
Fruit alone?
Yeah, no, yeah, fruit alone, yes, exactly. It won't combine with dairy, or fruit won't combine with
Anything.
most anything.
And aren't you supposed to eat fruit first because it digests so quickly?
If you're going to eat fruit first, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tongue, but if you're going to eat fruit first, you should do it, you should leave about 15 or 20 minutes between that and when you start attacking the protein. Because, see, there are different enzymes involved, different digestive enzymes involved in these processes. And that's where she just really shone, was that's how she kept herself healthy and kept her weight off all of her life. She never had any kind of problems with weight. The fifth, Optimum Assimilation, also in the book, I talk about the various kinds of cookware that really you should use. And she suggested that the best to use was stainless steel. That was the best thing to use. But she also talks about using earthenware to cook beans in and stuff like that. So it's wonderful stuff. And then the fifth step is clean living, and she talks about the home environment. So we take care of the body and the inside, the outside, the food combining. But then where is it that you live? And I remember she used to do phone consultations with people. Here she was 105 and 106, and she'd be on the phone for like an hour and a half on a phone consult, and she was doing most of the talking. And I remember listening in once, and she was talking to this woman who couldn't get a good night's sleep. And doctor said, well, let's start with the bedroom. What kind of decor do you have in the bedroom? And the woman said, well, you know, I just redid my bedroom, and we have zebra patterns, and I have this huge picture of these monkeys climbing a palm tree, and then on one side I have a waterfall. And she said, my dear, you've got to stop the monkey business. She said, the reason why you're not sleeping is that there's too much going on in that room at night. So she said, Hazel got her to paint her room beige colors and be very calm and have nothing, no mirrors in the bedroom and all. You know, she gives all these directions for a good night's sleep. Sometimes it can be as easy as, we now call it feng shui and things like that. But for Hazel, it was simple, practical way of looking at things. Step 5 is about healing with nature. And this is how to stock a natural medicine cabinet at home. So instead of